You're listening to the HuntStealth podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Uffens. Enjoy the show. Excited to have our special guest, Caleb Brewer, on the program today. Caleb is a retired U.S. Army Green Beret archer and just all-around badass. So, Caleb, man, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Ryan. It's a privilege.
Yeah. Hey, I want to talk a little bit about your journey into archery and hunting, because correct me if I'm wrong, but you weren't always a hunter.
No, I got adult onset hunting disorder.
That makes the two of us. So I'm 4 years into it. I think you're a little bit ahead of me, but why don't you share with the folks who are unfamiliar about your story, a little bit about your background and what led you into the hunting space, specifically archery.
Yeah, man. So on a super high level, and I'll dive into the weeds on anything you are interested in. But I was born in Tucson, Arizona. Spent all my whole life growing up there. I joined the Army in 2005, and in 2009, I ended up going to the U.S. Army Green Beret training pipeline right after I got back from Iraq, and spent the next 2 years training in there. Earned my Green Beret after a lot of trial and tribulation, and spent the next several years just doing awesome stuff, going across the world, doing cool missions, equipment, being with, tip of the spear type of folks that serve in the military. And in 2015, I was in Afghanistan, and on my 31st birthday on December 4th, I ended up stepping on an IED, resulting in the loss of both of my legs. So now I get to walk on two prosthetic legs. And then since then, it's been a roller coaster, and weirdly, life has been better since I got hurt, which is a weird thing to say because there's been so much good that's come from that. And got into hunting, got into archery, and it's been awesome ever since.
Well, thank you. Thank you, one, for sharing that with us. Thank you for your service and for your sacrifice. And I think there's a lot of guys out there that go through things, and you face the challenges that are given to you head on, and you can come out the other end better, even though it might not seem that way in the moment. So I appreciate the inspiration that you are. And just want to tell folks also, and I'll put it in the show notes, if you're not following Caleb, you definitely should go do that on Instagram at CK Brewer. And also, he's gotten so into it that he owns his own archery shop now. So it's Sniper Archery is also the handle as well. So go give both those a follow. And I know you've been on a couple other podcasts. I was just listening to some of your interview with Jack Carr, where you kind of go like in depth into the things that happened. Post you stepping on that IED. So if folks want to go listen to that, like definitely go check those out. But what I want to do is let's talk about kind of like the healing that you found through archery. Would you dig into that a little bit with us?
Yeah. When, a lot of military service members, you shoot guns, you shoot things that go boom, you got to be at a range, you got to worry about the safety and all that stuff. And then you go overseas, and a lot of times when you shoot a gun, it gets associated with stuff you did overseas, because that's what you did. Like your job was to shoot a rifle. Like that was your office every day. So the loud booms become normal. And but when you come back and you get out of the military, that noise can be associated with bad memories, and it can trigger things that you would normally not expect. So I got into hunting after I got hurt. My first time I ever went hunting was a couple years afterwards, and I have a dear friend of mine now. His name is Jesse Gregson, and he runs a foundation out of New Mexico helping veterans and kids go hunting for the first time. And he took me on my first hunt. It was a Barbary sheep hunt in New Mexico. Used a rifle. It was tough, a lot of hiking, walking around those prosthetics. And after I ended up shooting a ram, I was like, this is amazing. Why have I never hunted in my life? Because I was always outdoors. We were always camping and hiking and fishing, but we never hunted. So I got the itch after I got that ram. And so I did a couple hunts here in Arizona, elk, javelina, and deer and stuff like that. And then I was like, I want to try something. I want to try a bow. And I couldn't even tell you why I just wanted to shoot a bow. It just popped into my mind. And my father-in-law had a bow. He had a 1990 something PSE Nova, old bow, steel cables and everything. And I was like, yeah, I want to shoot this thing. So anyways, I started shooting it, and it was amazing. And so I ended up buying a little bit better bow because that one was pretty old. And so I bought one, I started shooting. And there's something about when you are drawing back the bow and using every little bit of like physical strength you have to hold that bow at full draw, and you have to concentrate on everything. And then when you release that arrow, it's like a release of stress because you're all tense from wanting to aim. And then when you hear it hit the target, it's like a full feedback loop of positivity. And most people smile, but when you're at full draw, I can not think of anything. I can't think of anything other than the arrow. So I have no way to think about I don't have any legs. I don't have any way to think about pain or bills or bad day. It's like literally you and the arrow. So it's incredibly therapeutic. And the thing I love about it is that you'll never be perfect. As much as you try to shoot and be perfect, it ain't gonna happen. Maybe a couple arrows, but then the next day or the next shot sucks, and you're like, so it keeps you coming back for more. And I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's that's kind of how it was for me. Like my brain's going 100 miles an hour, right? Like, an adult with ADHD, and you get out there and it does, like I've said it on multiple episodes I've recorded on, it kind of reminds me of For the Love of the Game, Kevin Costner, where he's like, clear the mechanism, right? And just like all the noise, everything goes quiet. Like that's what it's like for me. It's like I
Yeah.
totally relate to that. It's amazing to get out there and just it's you draw back and you're just locked in on your target and you can't help but focus. And like you said, you can get good, but you can mess back up again. And just so yesterday I went out, I hadn't shot for a while because I had separated my shoulder. I went out and I freaking slapped. I got a little raspberry on my arm. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, it's been 2 weeks since I've shot, and all I did was like forget to rotate my arm out. There's like all these little things, and so then that was the very first shot. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So yeah, got a little raspberry on the arm. I haven't slapped myself in probably since the very first time I shot a compound bow, and I'm like, you knucklehead, man. So
It keeps you coming back for more, man. It's just something about it. And you can drop a lot of money on equipment, but it's not going to replace the time you got to put into it. You got to put time into shooting and getting good.
yeah, yeah. Well, and so when you got into it, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you kind of like build out like a little set in your garage?
Yeah, I went all in, and I'm the kind of person that wants to obsess about things, and that's why I'm really in, like a lot of folks in archery. You got some OCD with it, and but I just wanted to start learning about it. So I actually there's a right here is a bow press, and I have some stuff over the side, and I just started tinkering. So basically, YouTube, John Dudley videos, practicing, taking stuff apart, and learning how to work on bows because it's intimidating. Like there's the tension, the strings, cables, the timing, all that stuff. So I started working on them and realizing, man, this is awesome. I really like it. And the timing was weird because that was right when COVID was kicking off. And so I got connected with a good buddy of mine, Jonathan Lopez. He's missing an arm, and he shoots a bow with a mouth tab, a piece of paracord tied to the string, bites it, and then he opens his mouth to shoot. It's wild. So me and him got connected, and we started um, a program for veterans and first responders under a nonprofit called Operation Enduring Warrior. And we did, man, it was awesome. We did hunts. We did 3D shoots at Total Archery Challenge. We got a guy a job at a pro shop, sent people to the Paralympics. We did training camps. It was awesome. And we realized that how good archery is for the mind. And I love it so much. I wanted to like look towards making a living out of it. So I was like, you know what? I think I might try to open up my own archery shop someday. And knowing that I'm going to have to scratch from the ground up because it's a really tough business to get into. So I started planning, and just through, I think it was divine intervention, I found out that my local pro shop, the biggest one in town, the owner wanted to retire and sell. And they had been in business for 11 years, and they sold everything. And I was like, so I got a hold of him, and he was like, yeah. And he talked me through it, and he made me a really fair deal. He was a great guy just looking to get out of it. And all of a sudden here I am with this awesome freaking archery shop almost 4 years down the road. It's crazy, crazy.
That's wild. Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I know like our local pro shop out here, they're amazing. And like you do develop like such good relationships, and it's crazy how many like the guy, they're just good dudes. Like, I mean, so it's perfect that you fall into that because, like I said, we just had Jared on, and you came highly recommended, and I appreciate him making that
Yeah.
connection. But yeah, so the working the bows and stuff, like building them, breaking them down, like that is super intimidating to me because I'm not like I'm not a smart dude. Well, I mean, I'm not a dummy, but that's not like my forte. So it's wild that you went into it like you said, you got a bow press, you got everything. I go down there and watch the guys work at our shop. It's Wild Arrows, the local one here
Mm-hmm.
in Utah. But I go down there and watch those all of them work. It's amazing to see. So, I mean, obviously your background, you're a lot more skilled technically than I am when it comes to that type of stuff. But yeah, it's cool that you got like all into it. So, explain to me that time frame. So you started getting into archery, and then you got hooked up with the Operation Enduring Warrior. And then how long was it before you started your the archery journey before you had your own bow shop?
It's like 2 years, man. It was
Too.
it
That's
was
so cool.
quick. I
That's
obsessed,
awesome.
man. I watched every YouTube video I could and started learning. And I was like, I'm gonna do this. And I like to take things apart too. I used to work as a mechanic at a Ford dealership, and I've tinkered with stuff, in the army and all that. I was a radio guy for a little while, and I love like learning how things work. And the I usually learn by breaking them. I'll take them apart and break it, and like, oh crap, then I'm gonna have to figure out how to put it together. And that's been the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's
been
one way to do it.
yeah,
That's where my ADHD kicks in, and I break something. I'm like, well, shit. I'm gonna have to just go buy a new one.
yeah. That's the easier route to do it and save yourself some time.
Yeah, it just yeah. But like you said, I mean, I remember when I first got into bow hunting. Like I got into it because my son wanted to do it, and he was 21, and he was 20, 21. I can't remember, but yeah, it was kind of like right around COVID that we got into it, right as we were kind of coming out of it. But yeah, we made a deal that hey, let's just put in. I had never hunted, never didn't grow up hunting. No one in my family hunts, and he, since he was a little kid, was always like wanting to go down to the Wild Arrow. Anyway, I'm like, hey, if we put in and draw out the same unit, like I'll go get a bow, thinking like I'm off the hook, right? I'm like, there's no way we're gonna draw the same unit. But anyway, we put in and the announcement came out, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. We both drew out the exact same unit, and anyway, it was off to the races. Went down, and he had already bought a bow because he was like, I'm doing it. So he had his own money at that point. He didn't have to ask me to go buy him something, and that kid's a tough worker too. But anyway, went down. I got myself a bow, and I went out, and it was this. I remember the very first time. Well, I do remember the very first time I let an arrow show. We was in the back range at Wild Arrow, and I like draw back, and I let it go, and I hear this explosion, and they have this tin thing along the bottom, and the sights were just like I was way off, way off. Anyway, it was only 20 yards, but just blew up my first arrow, and I was like, all right, well, we need to make some adjustments. But it was even just like that, you said that release, and I looked down there, and I saw the arrow kind of explode, and I'm like, well, shit, this is going to be an expensive sport if I keep blowing up my arrows. But it's a ton of fun, and it's super addicting. And if anybody hasn't shot a bow and arrow, like I would just encourage you, like go find a local pro shop. Most of them have ranges that you can go back and shoot, and they're going to get you set up with something. They'll take the time, find something that fits you right, and it's just one of like the coolest experiences in the world. And there is something primal, you start thinking back about like the ancestors, like since we're in Utah here, chasing down like a woolly mammoth. Right now we got the Utah Hockey Club, that's the Utah Mammoth. it's a fun thing. And then getting out on the mountain, like that's something that I did want to ask you about, because I talk all the time about like the physical conditioning that you have to be in. What's it like? I mean, what was that transition like for you, being able to adjust with your prosthetics? Because it is not easy country to go out. I mean, I see you've got a couple bulls behind you that you've taken down. Like those are not easy to do with two good legs.
It's tough, man. It's none of it is easy, and I don't know why I chose to bow hunt on two prosthetic legs. It's like stupid hard, but I don't. I just love the challenge. I had to spend a lot of time in the gym, and initially I spent a lot of time in the gym not knowing that I was going to hunt, but then it all translated over to hunting, and I work out probably 3 to 5 times a week, for since I was like 18 years old, and I'm 40 now. But knowing that the strength will transition over to what I want to do. And then once I started realizing the more work I put into the gym made me better out in the real world, I was like, okay, I really need to double down on it. But when I'm out there, I've got a good system. I'm real particular about how I pick my routes. I go really slow, but I use hiking poles, and my hiking poles can let me go almost anywhere, dude. I mean, unless it's like really hairy, a lot of like slide rock and really, really steep, but I can go over most stuff. I have on my left side, I have my own knee left. But on my right side, I don't have my own knee. So I have like one of each, like one above, one below the knee. And so I'm able to kind of use the best of both worlds. So when I'm going uphill, I use my own knee to like push myself uphill with my hiking poles. But when I'm going downhill, my right side has like a shock knee. It's like a mountain bike shock knee. So I can actually put the proper pressure and like sit into it, and it kind of slowly rides it down, like it breaks the knee. It's actually really nice, and the VA's taking really good care of me. But I got to be really good about sweat and taking off my legs and drying everything off and carrying extra gear to make sure I'm good, like spare parts and stuff. Um, and I usually won't go as far as somebody else, I got to be really. I've realized I got to be smart. Like I got to be really smart about how I hunt, and like if I see like an animal or a bull or something like that that I want to go after, I'd be like, can I actually get to it in time, and can I get it out? And a lot of times I got to say no, which is a hard pill to swallow when you want to go after anything. Um, but I found myself in some pretty hairy situations learning that lesson the hard way, where like during the summer when I'm hunting coos deer down here, and when the evening rolls around, you see the bucks finally coming out, and you like try to go after them, and then all of a sudden it's pitch black and you're low on water, your headlight, lamp is getting low on battery, and you're like, oh crap, I got a long walk out of here and up some steep stuff. So I just got to be smart, man. That's what I've learned, is to hunt smarter.
Do you do much solo stuff?
I do so much solo stuff, a lot, a lot. And I love it. Like I'll go here in Arizona, I'll go black bear hunting out here, coos deer hunting, javelina hunting, elk. Uh, one of the other elk on the wall, I hunted him solo and got him. Um, I like being able to make my own decisions based upon like my situation and going where I want to go. Because a lot of times when people hunt with me, they feel bad and they're like, well, let's make the hunt about you, or let's take the easier routes and stuff. And so I feel like it's like this kind of back and forth about, well, I want you to be able to have an opportunity, and the other person wants me to have an opportunity. So it is nice to hunt solo and just go at my own pace, because a lot of I can't keep up with everybody walking. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's, I mean, a testament to who you are as an individual, to be able to go out on your own and get the job done. And um, it's, it's wild. It's so fun to be out there. I've yet to arrow anything. I've yet to even let an arrow fly on anything. But I tell you what, since I've started this, it's crazy just talking to people. I mean, on a weekly basis, because I do 2 episodes a week. So I get to talk so much with people and just learn from them. And that's been like, I mean, that's the reason that I started doing the podcast, is like, I just want to learn. I want to learn. And it's not about me. It's, this podcast is just, I get to sit down with like amazing individuals that have gone out there and just figure out a way to get it done. And it's, yeah, it's a ton of fun for me. So Caleb, tell me this, like, what's been your favorite hunt that you've been out on?
Man, that's a tough one. Um, I think overall hunting, like the style of hunting, there's nothing better than hunting bull elk in the rut with a bow. I mean, when you call on them, this past year I hunted with my buddy Jonathan. I said he's missing an arm. We hunted together, and it was the best hunt I've ever had. We had every kind of elk hunting you could want: spot and stalk, glassing, calling, sitting, every possible. And both of us got elk on that one, and it was phenomenal. Like just that style, like when you call and they respond with a big old bugle, and you're like, oh yeah, here we go. It was awesome. That hunt was in northern Arizona. Um, the that that bull that's over there, I don't know if it's in the screen, but that's the one I got, and he got a really nice 350 bull on that one. I'm actually heading to Canada here in a couple weeks. I'm going to go up and hunt black bear with Jen and John Rivet up there in Alberta.
Okay.
And that is such a fun hunt because you like and as my hunting experiences progress, I learn about different styles of hunting. And so they do baited hunting up there. And initially I was like, I don't know if I want to do baited hunting. But then you go up there and you see what they have going on, and you realize it makes the most sense because they have an enormous amount of bears. I mean, like last year I saw 30 bears in 5 days. It was unreal. And so you sit there and they come in, your back's to a tree, they got the bait in front of you 15 yards away, and these bears are coming in all around you, climbing trees behind you, coming trying to sniff your backpack. There's nothing between you and the bears, and they're all over the place. But the cool thing is you get to select the right bear, because a lot of times here in Arizona, you see a bear, that's what you're going to see, and that's it.
Yeah, you got one chance at it.
Yeah, man. And then on this one, you can sit and you can actually look and use your binos at 15 yards away and see, is this a male or female? Is it mature? Is it not mature? And I'm going to take the proper one. So I love hunting with those guys because it's just the experience is awesome. The whole family is great. I love Alberta. It's beautiful. I mean, it's just that it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
If you're chasing big game out west, you know your glass is only as good as your tripod. That's why I run the Muley Maniacs Canopy Pro Carbon XL. It's lightweight, rock solid, and built for the mountains. Whether you're chasing high country mule deer or late season elk, this thing never quits. Muley Maniacs are built to last and come with a lifetime warranty. Right now, you can save 15% off your order with code STEALTH at muleymaniacs.com. That's muleymaniacs.com. Built by hunters for hunters.
Yeah. The other bear hunt that we were looking at doing, it just didn't work out for us to be able to go up this year. But Ty Eubanks, he runs an outfit up in the Nez Perce National Forest, and he had sent me some photos, and he's like, "Look, it's not grocery shopping." He's like, "But like, what kind of bear do you want? Do you want one in the blonde phase? Do you want a cinnamon? Do you want a black bear?" And he's like, "You tell me what you want." And I think there's a lot of people that, I was talking with Brad Hunt on here, and he'd said that, there's a lot of people that they don't like bear hunting. They consider it bad. But not, I mean, you get the PETA guys, right? Like they think all animals just go out and it's like freaking Lion King. They come together and sing or something together. No, like they like eat each other. It's, animals are they either starve to death, they're most of the time eaten alive, or they like freeze to death, up in the area that we're at. So it's like Mother Nature is brutal and doesn't care. And there's so many bears up there. And if you don't thin them out, like that's when the general public, the people that don't like the hunters, that's when they get mauled. And they're out on their bike. I mean, you see the videos on Instagram and that where a guy's like riding and he's got a GoPro on and you see a bear chasing him from behind. And if you don't do that, I mean, they will just continue to grow and expand and like eat. And for those that, like to go after the ungulates and, the elk, the deer, the things like that, that there's a disconnect, man, between a lot of people. And I never grew up like on the other side of that, but we just didn't hunt. Like we did a lot of stuff, like you had said, like we spent a lot of time in the outdoors, camping, doing things like that, but it just wasn't hunting. And you start talking to some individuals and there's like a huge bit of education that I think that's the one thing that I love what social media has done for the hunting industry is it allows people to be able to share a story, like why you do it. It's like a lot of people just think, and look, there are those that just like to go out there. You have the poachers, right? That just don't care. They want to go shoot something and they don't care if they even like take it, harvest it. They just shoot it and leave it. But a lot of people do it because it's how they feed their families. It's, you know, it's healing, right? I mean, I started calling it mountain medicine. You know, being able to get up, go in the mountains, and kind of you get that reset where your phone doesn't have service and you don't have that 24/7 like connection to the things that are just a distraction. And anyway, that's what it is. So when are you heading up to Canada? Sorry, I just kind of went like on a little diatribe right there. But you're
Dude,
heading up June or something? Was that what you said?
yeah, yeah, the first week of June. And dude, as far as hunting goes, like I I recognize that I eat meat and then I'm part of the cycle of life. So I was like, okay, why don't I take part in the cycle of life? And then I realized how much better wild game meat tastes and how much better my body feels. I'm telling you, my body feels good. And we eat wild. I mean, my family doesn't eat as much as I do. I got a couple girls and my wife, but I eat it almost every single day. Bear, deer, antelope, elk, javelina, like all this stuff, I'll eat it all. And you hit a good point about people not understanding what it is because there are misrepresentations of what hunting is, but the essence of hunting is conservation and harvesting your own meat and taking ownership in that, which is really important because when you go to the store and buy beef, you're so disconnected from it, you don't have any kind of connection to what that was before. But when you go and you actually harvest your own meat, you value that way more than any steak you can get at Texas Roadhouse, and it tastes better. So, as an example, my sister-in-law, she had never hunted in her life. She was did a stint of being a vegetarian for health reasons, trying to try it out before, and didn't have any interest in hunting. And so she started shooting a bow with me and the family. We'll go to Total Archery Challenge. We went to Park City and Brighton, the Love Tack, and we started talking hunting. And so I went and I eat everything I shoot, and I eat javelina, I eat bear, all that stuff. And I shot a javelina, and I wanted them to try it, her and her husband to try it. So I took some stew meat, which is usually not that great a cut of meat, cube meat. I brined it in the fridge for a couple hours, and then I smoked it on the smoker for a couple hours, just salt and pepper. I let them try it, and they were like, "Damn, this is really, really good." And now she hunts javelina with me every year with a bow because of that. So I think a lot of people don't understand it, and for sure it is sad every single time. And I've been very successful in the field, but it is sad, borderline bringing on tears every single time because you realize you're taking a life. And so it's like there's no nice and easy way about it. Like that's just the way life is. And so yeah, I want to take ownership of it, and it's a burden, but I want to have ownership of that because I'm going to eat meat no matter what.
Yeah, I think one of the guys that does a really good job of sharing their love and passion for hunting while not kind of making it like an in your face type thing is I was lucky enough to have him on as my first guest, but Donnie Vincent. I don't know if you've had a chance
Mm,
to watch any of his videos,
okay. Yeah.
but that dude's like connected. He cares about, and that's the thing is, people just think that you don't care about, like, you don't care about animals. It's like, no, like you do. Like I said, I've yet to arrow an animal. Um, but I can't imagine. I mean, it's like you said, it's a mixed emotion. Like you're out there, you're wanting to harvest an animal, but I've yet to do it. And the first time I do it, like I'm sure it's like it's going to be a mixed emotion of like you're happy, but also it's like, oh man, it really will for me. And I've got a lot of guys that like share their meat. They're like, hey, dude, I got so much stuff that let me. What do you want? Let me help fill your freezer for you. And I've got bison in the fridge right now. I've got elk meat, and when you are putting your own food again back to that primal kind of like caveman type thing, it's like when you can provide for your family that meat, like it's a good feeling, but it's also not just this. I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not just this thrill. I think for most hunters,
Mm,
you're connected to the animal, and they're connected to you, and they're providing, life. And like you said, the meat, like since I've started eating, my wife's always been into organic, and I finally got her to try like an elk burger, and she was like, "Oh, this is really good." I'm like, "Yeah, honey, it doesn't get any more organic than like elk meat." I mean, they're like up in the timbers, they're eating like the best stuff. And anyway, it's taken a long time for me to get her to try it, but she's like, "Oh yeah, that was actually really good." And it's an experience, and like I said, I'm looking forward to being able to have like my own meat that I've taken down the animal and harvested and deboned and all the fun stuff. But yeah, have you got
It's
any
tough.
other? Yeah, have you got any other hunts coming up this year that you're going to try and go out and do?
Nothing right now. In Arizona, you can shoot one antlered buck deer per year. Either depend if it's a whitetail or mule deer. I ended up getting real fortunate and shot a buck in the end of January, right before the season ended. So I'm in deer jail and I can't hunt deer until January next year. So I might go hunt some bear here in Arizona. I didn't draw an elk tag. Sometimes there's return tags, so that may happen. But but maybe I got this black bear, but a couple of the guys at my shop have elk tags and antelope tags. So my thought process this year is I'm going to hold down the fort while they get to go do some of that stuff because I've been pretty fortunate the past couple of years.
Yeah, well, that's cool. That you now, what are all the animals that you've been able to go out and hunt since you've started doing this? I
Oh
mean,
man,
you've gone through, like, I know you've
yeah,
said elk.
yeah,
I can see a bison behind you there,
yeah.
javelina, coos.
I ended up getting this desert bighorn sheep. I got a couple bear, couple elk, some coos deer. I got mule deer, and then the Barbary sheep, cow elk, stuff like that. Like I've had, I've been fortunate, like really fortunate to have some good harvests. There's that guy, and then there's some stuff over there on the wall. I really like
Oh
Euro
yeah,
mounts. Some guys over there. So,
and
um,
yeah, I love the Euro mount. Hence,
I,
that's what we
I
went with for our logo.
It looks good. And like I have a couple mounts and stuff like at the shop and everything. But the way I think about it is like I'm going to minimize mounts because when I pass away, my family's going to have to figure out somewhere for them to go, and it's a lot of money for mounts. So,
Yeah.
um, but I will say like I've been hunting for about 6 years now, and I've been pretty fortunate. But I have put in a mountain of work and hours in the field. There was one year 3 years ago I was in the field hunting for 110 days
What were you
throughout
going
the whole
after?
year. That was an elk, antelope, bear, coos deer, and the bighorn sheep year. It was wild. Like I don't know how my wife let me get away so much. It
Like
was
like a
crazy.
third of the year out hunting? It's not too
Yeah,
bad.
it was crazy. It was crazy. But you learn a lot. The more time you spend in the field, you learn like all the tactics and tips and how you want to do. And I'm always listening to podcasts. Remy Warren is one of my favorite. He's always talking about tips and you just learn, dude. Learn. I love being in the field and different styles of hunting, like the types. Like this year, I sat water for coos deer, but I've spot and stalked them in the past. Glassing for elk versus calling elk, stuff like that. Like I love the different varieties of it. Going forward, if I'm going to be doing some bear hunting here in Arizona, I'm going to go out solo with a little mouth call, predator call, and try to call them in to get an arrow in them. So it'll be interesting.
What so I mean, aside from for you, I mean, what we know, like the difficulties that you go through, just like general hunting struggles, like what was the one thing that you felt that maybe you overcame that helped kind of push you towards more success? Or for someone that's new to hunting, like what would you say, hey, this is going to help you be more successful?
I think there's two things. One is that patience is your biggest weapon. Patience is something that we all struggle with when we first get in because when you first start hunting and you say you're spot and stalking a deer, which is what we do out here, you do that in Utah, you want to go right away. You see it, you right away, I'm going to start walking right in after it. And you don't understand the deer's behavior. You don't understand what the deer is going to do, based upon the time of day, the scenario around it. But you got to wait, and patience is hard. to really grasp. So I was 2 years ago. I glassed up this coos buck, and I waited a little bit, like a couple hours, and watched him when he finally bed. And so I made this huge, I mean, like a 2 mile long stalk to get around him, get the wind right, come up on the side of the hill, and the wind was blowing up and down the hill. So he ended up smelling me, but thinking I was way above the hill, and I was 60 yards from him getting ready to draw, and he ran. So then I'm sitting there waiting. I'm like, crap. So I wasted. I didn't waste. I spent a lot of time going after him, and so I just started being all loud and crashing all the way back to the truck, and find out there was a giant buck just below him that was waiting, and I didn't see him. He spooked out because I didn't sit there and wait for the situation to play out. Um, but I've learned the hard way on patience, man. But the other thing is, you got to be comfortable getting pretty deep into the wilderness or to the woods or wherever you're hunting, because a lot of people will hunt, quarter mile, half a mile from the road. You walk to your glassing point or whatever, but there's so many animals that are way deep in there in untouched country, and you can have more success like getting further out there. And so for a while there, I was just like, I'm only going to hunt near the road. And that was comfortable for me on my prosthetics to not go very far unless I saw something. And I just realized I got to get out there. I got to be willing to hike in the dark, hike uphill, downhill into these draws, and be uncomfortable to get to these spots so I can be more successful.
Yeah, it's. I remember the first couple of times I went out, like, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't want to go very far. But it's once you put yourself like deeper in the country, you kind of get away from where all the people are and where like the constant pressure is, and you're able to definitely find more animals. And that's been that definitely is a struggle. But I've only had one bull that I got on. It was actually the very first time I went out, and it is when you see like specifically like a bull elk like in the wild, you can't. It's different than if you're driving through Yellowstone, right? Or you're driving through Heber and you see elk on the side of the road. When you're out there and you're trying to get on an animal, like the rush that you get is just, it's insane. And how loud they can be too. I mean, when I heard him coming in, I'm thinking, I'm like, where's this freight train coming from? I mean, you just hear sticks, branches snapping, and I'm going like, oh, Bigfoot is real. Like he's coming after me, and I'm like, oh wait, no, that's a bull. And I had him at 30 yards, but I didn't have it shot on vitals, and I'm watching him come, and like I did draw back, and he was about to step into an opening. And it's weird because a lot of guys talk about like the rush, right? Like the buck fever, and you draw back and you start shaking. That was like one of the first times that like we had talked about where like everything else went quiet. Like I was like calm as a cucumber. I'm just like locked in on where his vitals should be. I'm watching and I'm going, he's like 3 yards from an opening. And I didn't have a call. I had never called before. I'm the worst elk caller in the entire world. And I'm going like, well, I'm going to wait until he steps into that opening, and I'll just like do like a little bark or something just to try and get him to pause for a second. Cause I was like drawn back for like probably a minute, like just like tracking him. And I'm going, there is no way like this bull's going to step out into there. And then, like you say, like that wind, the same thing that happened to you with that deer you were chasing. Like I feel the wind hit the back of my neck because he was actually up. I was going down a slope and he was a little bit up above me, and he walked under this massive pine tree. And anyway, I felt the wind hit the back of my neck, and he turned and just like blew out of there. And it was the last day of the archery hunt too.
Mm.
And but for me, like that hooked me. I was like, I let the arrow down, and I'm going to get one next year. And I've been saying that for the past couple of years, but it hasn't been for me like until I wished I got into it. And I feel like I've gotten really good at shooting my bow. Like my distance in that where I feel like if I can get something at 80 yards, I feel perfectly comfortable about being able to place a kill shot on it, like in the vitals. And so having that confidence, I'm more nervous. I'm pretty tall. I'm like 6'3", and so I've got like a really long draw length too. It's like under 30 yards. That's where I start feeling like I'm like suspect. I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel like the wobble and everything is just insane, but it's fun. It's fun to get out there and just shoot the bow and like let the sticks fly. Um, and yeah, you had talked a little bit about the TAC courses, and I've yet to do one of those
Oh
because
man, you got to do that.
every time they sell out so stinking fast. I know there's some others, like the one here in Utah specifically. It's like when it opens, it's like if you're not one of the first, if you're not on there within 5 minutes of it opening, you're not getting on the course. But I've heard from other people that like that really helps like level your game up, because you can go shoot inside a bow shop and you can go set a target out at 80 yards, and that's great. That helps. And that's one of the things that I will go and do is like I'll take my target up into the hills and I try and give myself like different angles so that, because you never know, it's never I'm not saying never, but it's highly unlikely that you're going to have a perfect broadside shot at 40 yards. I mean, you're going to be either behind a tree or they're going to be partially behind a tree. And from what I've heard, like the TAC events really kind of helps people like level their game up. Would you say that's true?
100%. 100%. Like you get to learn the trajectory of your arrow. You get to know, hey, is my arrow going to smash that tree above as it's going down to the target? Or you get to learn, like, is it going to go through these branches or all that stuff, like and body placement of the target, quartering, all that stuff, like, is really important. If you just take like hunting aside, outside, like away from Total Archery Challenge, it is such an awesome event. I mean, you get all these people coming together, thousands of people over the course of a weekend coming to shoot these courses, and they'll have like, anywhere from 6 to 8 different courses for you to choose from. They have the vendor village down low where you can talk to everybody, all the people that are in the archery industry are there. You ride a ski lift to the top of the mountain, you shoot on the way down targets off trail. I mean, it is awesome. And so what happens is all the courses always sell out, like the good knock times. So what you can do is you can buy any other available knock time, and then you shoot any course for free after like noon or 1. So you say you get a less desirable one in the morning, then you can shoot as many as you want after that. After 1, you can do that the next day and shoot all the good courses. But dude, I mean, they're like anywhere from 3 to 5 miles, 25 targets, and it'll take some hours. It's tough. Like the first one I did was in Snow Basin, and we did the knock-on course first thing in the morning. And granted, I'm pretty slow on the mountain, but to do 25 targets in 4 miles, it took me and Jonathan 9 hours to do that one that day. It was a long day.
And Jonathan was your buddy that you said that is missing an arm, right?
Yeah.
And so he has to shoot.
Yeah.
I think Remy had shot like that, because I remember seeing a video where he had some shoulder work done and he was out there trying to figure out how to shoot with his mouth. I couldn't even imagine.
It's interesting because Jonathan says that he is more solid with his anchor point because he's not worried about where his hand sits on his face wobbling and how hard he's pulling back. He's just with his mouth. And it's wild because he can sit there and talk to me out of the side of his mouth while he's at full draw. And he shoots 84 pounds out of his bow. I don't know how his teeth don't fall out.
He's shooting 84 with his, because you bite onto a tab, right? So hold on a second. He's drawing back with his teeth 84 pounds, and he's sitting there talking to you.
Yep, out of the side of his mouth, he's like, hey, blah, blah, blah. Can you move my peep, adjust my peep or whatever? Like, it's wild, but he can hold for a long time. It's just the back of your molars and his mouth. I mean, he's got a strong jaw, but he doesn't have any teeth issues. And when he smoked a giant bull, 350 bull last year in September at 20 yards, snuck in. It was amazing. So cool to watch that all come together.
That's wild. I guess it's just like anything. If you decide you're going to do something, like, you can do it. I remember when I first, like, I went down and I mean, I think my pound is like 72 or something like that is what my draw weight is. And I remember the first time doing that, man, I was just sore. I'm also like entirely. That's the one thing for me too that this had changed. My wife always called me like a skinny fat, right? Like I was skinny, but like I was fat. I literally like had like a belly, right? All my body fat was just around my waist. I had skinny legs, had skinny arms, and then I started shooting, and I'm like, well, I want to be able to like draw back and hold. And that's the thing, like for me, like from the get go, that I tell you, I try these different things. I would practice shooting from my knee. I would practice like these different things. And then I can't even remember where it was, who it was that was talking about it, but it was somebody who's, super popular in the archery industry. But they were like, hey, you should try and hold like a draw for like 90 seconds, because like I said, you go out in your backyard, you go to a bow shop, like you can pull back, you're like, you don't have wind or anything else. Like I practice, if it's like raining, I still go out and shoot my bow. If it's windy, I still go out and shoot my bow. And you kind of do, I've shot so many, I've taken so many shots. I do feel very comfortable with my bow. So me, it's just a matter of learning how to get on the animal. But if you decide you're going to do something, you can do it. And then like I went through this, like I've gone through like if you were to see pictures of me from 5 years ago, not just even the beard, right? Everyone's like, you start hunting, you grew a beard. I'm like, I started growing a
Yeah.
beard before, but your body will change. Like you have to be in physical, like peak condition to be able to draw a bow back successfully. And to like your buddy Jonathan, like maybe he started at 84 pounds, maybe he didn't, but through repetition, like your body will build muscle memory regardless of what it is. It's like I've torn my rotator cuff 3 times and I just do things differently. Like when I lift weights, like you learn how to modify certain movements so that you don't cause injury. And I think a lot of times people don't get into things because it's hard. Like one of the best things mentally for me was getting into archery because it's helped me immensely. And my things are like little, like in the grand scheme of things, but it helps me focus like on my career. It's made me better as a salesperson. It's made me better in so many different aspects of my life that it's just, I'm grateful myself for the opportunities that it's provided me. And I always felt bad that I hadn't been hunting my entire life after I finally started doing it. But I'm like, had I been, like, one of the greatest pleasures that I've had that's come from this has been starting this podcast. And I get to meet so many cool people and just learn from them. And it's wild. So yeah, it's cool. I need to get out to a TAC event. I'm actually like, do you know the guys at Black Flag? Have you met Jordan and Casey Harbitson?
I haven't.
So they're the guys that were the original founders of Mountain Ops. And anyway, I think they still have. I won't get into it, but anyway, they started Black Flag, and if you're going out to TAC events, I think they've been to a ton of the TAC events. You'll have to meet those guys. Like they're super cool, and they started Black Flag, which is, you see the stuff behind me here. They got their energy drink, but they go do the TAC events, and they're a bunch of studs, man. I mean, you should see. I share a little office space with them. They've got like a dope place upstairs, but you should see some of the stuff that they've got here, man. Like, Brian Call. I need to introduce you to Brian Call. You should go on his podcast, dude. He just released a film called Blood in the Snow, where him and Ryan Lampers went and hunted wolf. Dude,
Nice.
his wolf, it just got delivered here, and I saw it, and I'm like, dude, those wolves are freaking massive. But it's a cool environment and just such a cool opportunity to be able to like learn and grow, and like you say, go out and do all sorts of different things. But yeah, what's been so it sounds like you've been up here to Snow Basin then, because that's like 15 minutes from where I am right now.
Yeah,
I've heard that was a pretty cool course.
Oh, it was freaking gnarly, dude. Like that was one of the harder ones I've done. It's because we went all the way to the top. And when we went there that year, there was rain coming in, so it was like actually snowing on the top of the mountain a little bit in July. It's crazy.
Yeah.
We did Park City a
There's
few
some
years too.
gnarly like shots, and like I've seen some of the cliffs and things. Like I personally am not like I wouldn't say I'm afraid of heights, but you get out there and it gets a little windy. I couldn't imagine some of the angles that you have to try and stand on, you know, with your prosthetics.
Oh yeah,
Like
it's tough, dude. It's
could
tough.
be
I've had
like
to
a
like.
go ahead.
Oh, I sit down a lot, man. I like when I find an area like that, I got to be really particular about my footing, and I've had to like sit on my butt, especially in those cliff shots. There's that very first shot in Snow Basin on the knock-on course. What you come to literally a cliff edge, and luckily there was a flat spot for me to stand on. But I remember you aim like that. You're aiming down like that, and it's a 40-yard shot, and you think about the actual distance because you have to cut off yardage depending on how steep you are. Your rangefinder calculates that. So the actual straight line distance was super far, but you're shooting 40 yards almost straight down, and you got to be really good about your third axis and your side picture and your all that stuff. It's tough. And then you go back to the flat range outdoors, and you're like, oh, this is easy compared to that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, if like I said, for me, I would my suggestion to somebody that is new and they start shooting a bow, if you can't go, well, I could go. I just haven't gone. I don't want to make it sound like I'm incapable of going. I just every time there's a group that wants to go, and we always forget to go in
Mhm.
and hurry try and buy. But it sounds like you're saying there might be some times that you can go try and buy that might not be like the ideal times, but I'm going to look into it. That's something I definitely want to look into and try and get out there and do, spend some time on one of those tack courses. But if you can't do that, if you have the luxury, I mean, I'm in Utah, I'm surrounded by mountains. Take your target up and just walk it up 40, 50 yards, just shoot, learn to shoot uphill, learn to shoot downhill, learn to try and shoot around things, because that's one of the things in people that I've talked to is you don't know what you don't know, and it's unlikely you're ever just going to get like I mentioned earlier, like a perfect broadside shot. So
Another thing you should try that we did building up to this elk hunt last year is when we were doing our training program in the gym, we brought our bows and set up a target 20 yards away from us, and we worked in shots in the middle of a pretty tough workout. So like we would be doing a circuit, whatever exercises, you go do like 10 burpees, and then you got to pick up your bow while you're like shaking like crazy and make a shot at 20 yards. Like that'll tell you, because it's easy. Like you're saying, when you're at the flat range, I'm listening to my music and I had my coffee and I'm shooting. But then when you add in that adrenaline pump and your muscles are tired, which happens a lot, and it really puts it into perspective.
well, and it's like you said, that coos deer you're chasing. I mean, how far away did you say it was? Like 2 miles when you bed
It was a
down?
long walk. It was a long
Like,
walk.
yeah,
Yeah.
walk, and then you're like crawling and climbing. And I mean, where I go and hunt, it is like you're going like down, up and down and up and down, and you're rarely, like I said, for me, like I'm stalking because um my call that I do sounds like a mountain lion. And if I do that call, like the elk like bolt the other direction. But yeah, it's I like the stock. There's different things that I've learned, like I said, that you can put together. They're going to make you better, like when to stock, when to kind of sit put. And the biggest thing is just you got to find where the elk are. It's like I just did an episode with Cody Rich, right? And that dude's a stud. And he had said like, hey, if you're in an area, right, and you've got a vehicle and you got camp, like drive around and throw some bugles out. I I went and got me a Slayer bugle because that's kind of dummy proof. I'm still not great at that, but I'm getting better. I practice it, but go out and call. And if you can get a response, like okay, that next morning, like I'm going to get up and I'm going to go start working like that canyon or that pitch, because for me, like when it comes to elk hunting, the hardest part is finding the elk, because there's a lot of time, like when you're out doing the archery hunt early season, like they're not always bugling. It's not always easy. At least the areas that I've gone to, I've yet to be out there where I've heard them just ripping, like letting it rip. And that's the other thing that everyone's like, "Oh, dude, you've got to get out." And I got a lot of guys that are going to go out with me this year and help get it done. So it's a ton of fun. But what and I want to be sensitive to your time here, but as we kind of wrap up, like, has there been a hunt for you that where you were successful, that was maybe you had, you know, something exciting or something sketch happened where it's like things kind of maybe went south, just like another good learning experience that you had that helped you improve as a bow hunter?
Oh yeah. Yep. So it'll be the theme will be perseverance is what it boils down to, because it never goes your way. It never goes your way, and everything has to be perfect. But 3 years ago, I was had an archery antelope hunt up north in Arizona, and we get uh, I don't know. So for folks that haven't hunted antelope, they're frustrating because you can see them, easily see them because they're everywhere, but they can see so well. So getting close to them is incredibly tough. Like their eyes are the equivalent of having like 8 or 10 pair of binoculars on their eyes, and they could see you from like a mile away. It's crazy, and they're fast. So getting to them is really tough because they live in these areas where they can open and you can see sometimes there's zero coverage, just little grass. And so I had a hunt in Arizona. Those hunts are 2 weeks long for the archery hunt. It's in August, so it's during our monsoon season where it can be rainy or whatever. But I was by myself and it was hunting, and I was living out of my truck so I could be mobile. So I was sleeping in the back seat of my truck every night, eating peak refuel dehydrated meals, walking 6 to 10 miles a day, stalking these things, and get so close, and then they would just kind of walk away, and you'd be like on the brink of being able to get one. Like it got to the point where I would glass up a herd as they bedded, and I would stalk into the last tree line, and then I would set my pack down, drop my pants, take off my prosthetics, put on my pants, and freaking army crawl like 200 or 300 yards to them. And I remember getting all the way to them, like 50 or 60 yards away, and they didn't know I was there. And then they just were like, "Oh, it's time to get up and move on." So they just popped up and started walking away. And I was like, "Are you kidding?" I mean, it's in August, it's hot, so it's tough, and I was getting frustrated. So I remember, I think it was day 8 or 9, and I spotted a buck and a doe bedded in the open, facing into the wind away, which was perfect, and a little slight slope away from them. So I came up from behind them, and I got a decoy, and I started slowly moving in with their back to me, and the wind was in my face. And then they turned and saw me about 100 yards out, and then they ran away. And I was like, "Oh my God." So I watched them with my binos and watched them went down across a little wash, a dry wash, and up into some rocks about 100 yards away. So I made another long, it was like a mile, made like a long stalk into there. And I was like, I don't know exactly where they are in the rocks. So I'm going to sit at the crossing point where all the antelope come back through, because there's a fence on the other side of the rocks. And antelope are not really keen on crossing fences. They don't jump them. They always look to go underneath them. So they don't like to cross fences. So I was like, okay, they're probably going to come back the same way they came. So I was sitting there on the rocks, and all of a sudden it started raining. And I was like, "Ah, crap." So I put my poncho over my head, and I start texting and FaceTiming my wife. And I'm texting her, and I'm like, "Man, it's been like 30 or 45 minutes of rain." And so I took off my poncho, and there's a flash flood in front of me. And I was like, "Oh, shit." So there was no water 45 minutes ago, and all of a sudden there's a flash flood. And I was like, "Well, it doesn't look like it's very deep." So I was like, I can either test the depth deep, like see how deep it is with my hiking pole, and if it's crossable, if it's a couple inches or whatever, I'll cross it. Or I got to walk like 5 miles out of here all the way around to get to where there's a crossing point, and there's other basins and flash flood areas. So I was like, I don't know what I'm getting into. It's turning out to be nighttime. So I put on my gear and I start walking down the slope to test the water. And before I can get to the water, I slipped and fell and rode the mud all the way into the water. And I started going down the river. And it was like 2 feet deep at that point or something like that. And it got deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And I was like, this is not good. So I like leaned on my pack to float and started kicking my arms and legs to try to push me to one side. And it's raging down the river. So I dropped my pack, dropped my poles, my bow is hooked to my pack, and I'm going down the river. And I'm like, this is not good. And then it got to the point where I'm not touching the ground anymore as I go underneath because I got my rain gear on, my bino harness, all my gear, my prosthetics are getting heavier. And I'm fighting, like literally fighting for my life. And I did not get a chance to think about dying when I got blown up in Afghanistan because it just happened. This one, I was like, this is like literally, this is it. I felt like I was like seconds from going under because I was coming up and coughing all the water up. And I knew that this river was getting me into a basin, which was like a half a mile wide and like 30 to 50 feet freaking deep. And I was like, this is not good. So I was on the, like, just sitting there, like, this is how it happens. I'm going to die. And then I was like, I'm going to drop my prosthetics. I know I can swim. I can swim really well, but they're too heavy to keep me up. And I'm like fighting like frantically. And right as I'm about to drop my prosthetics, I feel the bank or I feel dirt on my left hand, and the river was raging and it took a little turn and I felt it. So I put both hands in the dirt and I scraped as it's dragging me along and I pulled myself up and finally just laid there. And then the water kept coming up and up and up. So I had to like barrel roll like 10 times up a little higher in the mud, and I'm laying there and it kept coming up. And I was like, oh shit. So I grabbed like a stick and I walked all the way up to like out of this little channel, whatever it was. And I'm sitting there just like breathing. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then I had my binos. And so I looked for my pack, and my pack had gotten hung up on a tree 200 yards
So
ahead
you
in the
ditched
river.
your pack then?
Keys, bow, pack, gone. They were down there. Like, cause that was bringing me under really quick. Like I was
Sure.
starting to sink quick, and I was like, nope. Hiking poles, nope, gone. So I got up and then I saw my pack hung up on a tree. So I called 911 and they started sending sheriff's department out there. And I told them, I was like, do not come from the other side where I was, because my truck was about a mile off the other side, because you can't get to me. You can't cross this river. It's impossible to cross this thing. And so they still came that way. And they came on, and I watched them walk all the way out, and they were like, nope. And they walked back to their trucks and had to drive. And it took them a while to get to me because they had to get through a ranch, special access. They almost got stuck a couple times and got to me. And while I was waiting for them, I was like, this is crazy. Like I'm not hurt. I mean, I almost freaking died, like very, very close to dying and drowning, but I was like, I'm not hurt. So I took that stick and I walked all the way down, picked up my pack, walked all the way back up, and they put me in their vehicle and drove me back to the main road, had an ambulance there and checked me out. And they're like, dude, you ain't got no bumps, scrapes, bruises. You're fine. It's like, we recommend that you go back to the hospital to get checked out. And I was like, well, I'm good. And they're like, okay, well, what do you want me to do? And I was like, take me to my truck. Take me to my truck. And so they drove me to my truck, and I called my wife, and she was like, I'm glad you're okay, and I know what you're gonna do, so just be safe. And I was like, all right, cool. So I freaking hunted the rest of the hunt, and 2 weeks straight out there, man, I covered like 60 miles on foot during that hunt. I did not get an antelope. I had a shot on a really nice big buck, but because of the mud and dirt that was in my release, as I went to draw back on him, it preemptively opened and I missed him, which was weird because I tested it out at camp, but something must have happened. So it was crazy, man. And so I had the same hunt 2 years ago, which would have been this past August, and it was intimidating because you're like, I'm going to go back into this area where I literally almost died, like seconds from dying, from going under and not coming back up. And I was like, I'm going to do it anyways. And so I planned and I hunted differently this time, and I ended up shooting an antelope with my bow, and it was like the coolest full circle, like facing your fears and being successful afterwards. It was like it was awesome, super awesome.
That's way cool. I appreciate you sharing that with me. I say us a lot. I guess it's just me and you. My brother-in-law always says, "What, you got a mouse in your pocket?" But anyway, that's a cool story, and it is. I mean, I won't go into the details on it, but I've had a couple experiences where we were out. I mean, even last year, where I've never been. Mother Nature can humble you.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that's the one thing is one, like, I mean, like I said, never been caught in a flash flood. I feel that swimming is one of my strengths. It's like, hey, if someone said like, hey, do you want to go run a marathon or swim a marathon? I'm like, I'm gonna go swim a marathon. Like that would be a lot easier for me to do than to do that. But the other thing, like having been like, I've been in rough water before, and it's like fast moving water is not fun. And yeah, I mean, having a pack that starts getting watered down, and yeah, man, you're supposed
It's
to be here
crazy.
for a reason, brother.
I know, dude. I know. I've had, and that's just, it's just one of many near-death experiences in this lifetime. And so, like, just going back to the archery stuff, like the process from me getting into archery to doing the nonprofit stuff to this business has been so just fluid. Like, I'm not out on the streets networking to make this stuff happen. It's like there's a set of dominoes that are laid out, and all I got to do is just be present for it, and then they happen and push me in a certain direction. And I'm meant to be here to do this stuff, and we do a lot of stuff to help people out through the shop. Like, it's not just about money, it's about community. And there's a reason I'm still here, man. And I don't know if I've figured out that reason yet, but life has been really good ever since I got hurt.
Good, good. Well, I'm glad you're here, and I appreciate your time. As we kind of wrap up, let me ask you this last question: as a bow shop owner, what would you say is the most overrated piece of equipment for that people buy when it comes to hunting?
Oh man. um I don't know if there's anything that's like super overrated. There's a lot of like little niche products, that the add-ons that can add weight and like all these extra pieces that can get added onto your bow. Um, I think that people, and again, we do not do this stuff at the shop to become rich. We do it to be fulfilled, and it's a soul fulfilling thing. But you don't have to have a new bow every year, and it doesn't help me from a business standpoint. You don't need a new bow because there's always new bows coming out. It's about you shooting your bow the best you can and spending time practicing it, because a lot of folks starting their journey will get target panic, or they're having like maybe their bows and paper tune and their arrows aren't accurate, or they're getting frustrated. And there's a lot of things that you could fix through a coach or having somebody teach you how to do it rather than buying equipment. So that's like, I will literally tell people not to buy certain things all the time, because I'm like, it's not going to help you. It's not going to help you fulfill your goal. You need to practice shooting your bow is what it is. So
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a lot of different things, but like I said, that's one of the benefits of getting in tight at a bow shop, is because like I'll go down there and I'll be like, hey, I I feel like I'm doing something wrong, right? And Cody and Jeremiah and all those guys, like they'll go like, well, let me see, come back here, like let me see. No, no, they make these like little tweaks, and like I said, like I went out yesterday. I've not slapped myself on the arm since it's probably been like 5 years, and I'm like, it wasn't bad, but still, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That's like a rookie mistake. But there's all these little nuances that if you just get to know your bow, and I'm like, okay, I was just excited to shoot. I wanted to see if I could draw back because I hadn't been able to draw back since I separated my shoulder. And well, I separated it like 3 months ago, rehabbed it, and then I went back to jujitsu and rolled with the dude that's like twice as strong as I am. And he wasn't even doing anything crazy, but it was just like a weird angle that he had me, and he even heard it like pop, like it. He's like, "Bro," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm done. Like, let's stop for today." And anyway, so I'm like, I'm going to give myself 2 weeks because it wasn't as bad as when I first separated it. But I went back and drew back, and it wasn't comfortable. And I was thinking about my shoulder. I wasn't thinking about my shot, which is, again, why you slap your wrist. And you just have to get to where it becomes a routine, because if you're out hunting and you rush, you're going to miss the target. You're going to float it over its back or under it, or I don't know, hit a branch, a million different things. But yeah, spend the time, get to know your bow, And yeah, I think that'll be good. So, okay, let me ask you this follow-up question, Caleb. Like, what's the one piece of gear that you don't go into the backcountry without?
Um,
And it could be like a luxury thing,
mhm,
or I mean, or something that it's sentimental or whatever.
yeah. Um, well, depending on what kind of situation you're in, I always have a layer with me. I like because talking about Mother Nature, I've been caught in so many situations where you're like, oh, it's fine, it's hot, and then maybe you get sweaty or whatever, but then you get cold. So I always carry an extra layer. Um, I carry an Allen wrench with me, like an archer's Allen wrench that has all the different sizes. And the reason why that came in handy to me was because one time I was going after a Coues deer that I shot down a steep hill, and I had my carbon poles, and one of my poles snapped in half, and I was like, "Oh, dude, I can't get in and out of here without two poles, or else I'm gonna crawl." So I had to use my Allen wrench to take off a tripod leg off my freaking tripod and use that as another hiking pole to get in and out of there. So like I wouldn't have been able to do it without that Allen wrench. But just, I mean, like as far as gear goes, I try to minimize everything lightweight, but always have backups for things like a spare headlamp, spare set of batteries, stuff like that. To make
The
sure
the
you're
the
good,
old adage, one is none, two is one.
dude. Like, or you're ranging something and your rangefinder battery dies and you're in the middle of nowhere and you don't have a spare range, the little 3 volt or whatever they are, like stuff like that.
That'll ruin a hunt fast. Not having a
Yeah,
rangefinder.
my wife she forced me to have a Garmin InReach when I'm by myself so she can talk to me if something happens, because a lot of times I won't get back to like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So that is a must have nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Caleb, hey man, really appreciate your time. It's been great getting to know you. I would tell you guys again, go give him a follow, CK Brewer on Instagram, and his archery shop is Sticks Sniper Archery. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was just going off memory, so
Nice.
it fails me sometimes. But hey, guys, if you've taken anything that you feel that's going to make you a better hunter or just better in overall life, please share this podcast with a friend, send a text, share the reels, the different things as you see them come through. But yeah, when you do that, leave a comment. All that helps with all the different algorithms that are constantly changing. But we want to get the message out to people. One, in Caleb's case, I think he is an inspiration and just all around great dude. So I think he has a great story to share. So please share it. Again, give him a follow and stay safe, and God bless.